being like my guru, my teacher, my mentor, my boss, my colleague, and my friend, is that oh, he had a great sense of humor. When he finally caught on to my sense of humor, he made me do skits every year, parodying, him, satirizing him, including rewriting the songs from the play or the movie or whatever. So I did him as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, getting back to AFGE. I did him as Jimmy Stewart in It's a Wonderful Life. He was going, you need to be tougher on me, I can take it, be tougher. I said, okay, you're forget. The next year I did him as Groucho Marx in A Day at the Union. Oh man, he was laughing, but when he came up to shake my hand, people were like crying, they were laughing so hard. And he's going, that was great. I'm going, John, you're breaking my hand. And he goes, well, that was a little over the top. I said, last year was not over the top, and you want it over the top. He goes, I'm not saying it wasn't funny. So anyway, he had it all. I miss him tremendously. And if he's up there now going, a library for Rob? Really? Are you sure? So the next one I want to thank, you've already heard from, always my rock, always there to kick me under the table. Because like now, I don't always know what's going to come out. I'm not really great at self-censorship. It's like, if I get mad at someone, that, I let it up. I wear it on my sleeve. So Brian is the one irreplaceable person at AFGE. And I mean that, and I know that. So they better start looking now if he's going to go within the next 5 years. Brian has always been there for me. And the amazing thing about Brian is he and Elise raised 5 boys. I'm talking a starting basketball team. And can you imagine how crazy it must have been at home? But I can't remember one time in 30 years that Brian ever brought it into work. I'd ask him, how's it going at home? I couldn't get a word out of it. I'd work him like a cross-examination. I couldn't break the witness. Now, Brian, this is going to come to a shock. It's a shock to you. Not everybody at AFGE feels the same way about you as I do.
That is a shock.
Well, what they don't understand, and this is true, ladies and gentlemen, friends, brothers and sisters, anyone, family, Brian was the national president's no man. So the union would come to Brian with something, and I'd be there, come to Brian with something that was really good, good for the employer, good for the employee. And Brian would say, well, I'll take it up to the national president. For whatever reason, the national president, any one of them, has happened dozens of times, the national president would look at the thing and go, no. And if they ask you again, never. Now get down there. So Brian would go, and after arguing for it, for half an hour, the union would come, and Brian would go, no. He'd go, it's really good. Never. No. So obviously, they would go around Brian to the national president and say, we have this really great proposal. And the I've been there for that too. The national president would go, well, what did my chief of staff say? What did Brian say? Oh, he said no and never. Well, I could never overrule my executive director. I could never overrule my chief of staff. How would that look to people? So, yeah, they would just sort of lay it on Brian. And Brian sucked it up and took it. So, you're an amazing, amazing person. Now, the next person, I'm not going to give her name. Whoever thinks they know can just shout it out first. Yeah. Yeah. Give her a quick excuse. Yeah, it's Sharon. I remember going to a meeting about the Fair Labor Standards Act case with Local 1923, and I had heard they had hired some hotshot organizer from NTEU, but at that time I wasn't thinking about her. I didn't think she would be at a meeting. you know, about the technicalities of overtime pay. I'm walking down before this, the hallway used to be about a person and a half, or 2 people couldn't get there. So I'm walking down, and all of a sudden I see coming out of the library like a bullet coming straight at me, and I mean fast. I turn around, there's no one behind me, so it's me. And they called her a lot of things. I don't mean to be mean, but petite isn't one of them. So anyway, she's running down. She stops an inch from my face and starts yelling at me at the top of her lungs. And like, I'm just staring at her. And the mind is going, good heavens, she's so loud. I can't understand her. And I went, I don't think you can yell at the general counsel. And then I went, wow, this is pretty neat. And as she's doing this, she's like, you know, it's tiring her out. She starts huffing, and then she starts puffing, then she goes on, you know, supports herself on her hands on her knees, and she's like, she stops and said, I didn't know what to say. I just said, can I get you a glass of water? And she just started laughing. She had roped it herself with, you know, boxing and Muhammad Ali. She had punched herself out. And she just started laughing, and we just had the best friendship. Some people see too blunt, and I see clear. Some people see micromanaging, and I see accountability. And I still have lunch with Sharon every month. She's like a life coach for me. And I just love her a lot. Did she come today? Now, this next giant, you don't know unless you were here about 12 years ago. He started around 1970, John W. Mulholland. Now, the attorneys, they hated Mulholland when I first got here in '76. They were like, oh, he worked himself up in the shop floor. He's a shop floor guy. I'm like, well, Mulholland hated him right back. They're like, these guys spend all their days writing 30-page memos on why not to take a case. So there was like not a good vibe between these departments. And because in my first 6 months, the general counsel finally came back after Labor Day. And the first thing he does is, I want you to work on this proposal that Mulholland wants to get through management. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, I hadn't even met him. I went down, go into his office. He's sitting at the end of the office behind a big desk, and he goes, you know, with his finger, he points for me to go to his table. So I go to his table. You're the new guy. I go, yeah, I've been around like 4 or 5 months. He goes, I don't know you. I don't know you. You don't know me. If you keep talking, maybe you'll know me. So he goes, I've got this proposal. I don't really know how to sell it, but why don't you listen to this? So he starts going, and it's like, this guy's going past the moon, he's going past Mars, he's going way out of orbit. I had never heard anything like this stuff. And he stops, and he looks at me, he goes, well, counsel, what's your legal opinion? And I looked at him, no expression. I said, frankly, Mr. Mulholland, my legal opinion is that you're full of shit. Sorry if you, I said, frankly, Mr. Mulholland, I think my legal opinion is that you're exploited illegal. So he looked at me like shocked. I didn't change my expression. And then he just started bellowing with this body laugh, and he looked a lot like Santa Claus. He was the most personable person I've ever met. I just call him the Great One, and I don't throw that around that often. And he worked himself up from being a printer at the government printing office to being the head of negotiations for the largest federal sector employee union. So he was quite a man. He gave me the best advice I ever got. We were at a negotiating table, and I told the other side, this is a great proposal. It's going to work for you, it's going to work for the union. I remember these folks weren't Neanderthals like we had to deal with. So I said, I mean, there's 5 great reasons why you should accept this. So I give them reason 1. They go, we can live with that. That's not going to stop me. I'm going on to reason 2, and then I'm starting reason 3 when Mulholland, grabs me, pulls me back, and says, minute, Mark, take yes for an answer. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to say, take this as yes for an answer and tell you, really, I couldn't be more awed, I couldn't be more honored, I couldn't be more in disbelief. And I thank you. And thank you all.